Have you ever wondered why some 1950s American cars that once ruled the streets suddenly disappeared without a trace? Why did a few stunning classic American cars, machines packed with innovation, bold designs, and serious power vanish from showrooms almost overnight? And here's the crazy part, some of these cars weren't failures at all. In fact, a few of them were years ahead of their time. So what really happened? Did the public simply ignore them? Did the companies behind them collapse soon? Or were these beautiful machines just born in the wrong era? Today, we're diving deep into 10 forgotten 1950s American cars that suddenly vanished, cars that once symbolized the golden age of Detroit but somehow faded into history. The 1950s were a wild time for classic American cars. America was booming after World War II. Highways were expanding, suburbs were growing, and car companies were locked in an all-out battle to build the biggest, flashiest, and most exciting machines on the road. This was the era of massive chrome bumpers, rocket-style tail fins, wrap-around windshields, and engines that sounded like thunder. Every brand wanted to build the next automotive legend, and some did, but others built cars so strange, so experimental, or simply so misunderstood that they vanished almost as quickly as they appeared. Some lasted only a few years. Some disappeared when their companies collapsed. And some are so rare today that even serious collectors barely remember them. One of the strangest stories starts with the beautiful Hudson Italia. At a time when most classic American cars followed a familiar formula of big bodies, heavy chrome, and bold tail fins, the Hudson Italia looked completely different. Its body was actually built in Italy by the famous coach builder Carrozzeria Touring, giving it a sleek, almost exotic look. The car had dramatic curves, unique air vents carved into the hood, and styling that looked far more European than American. For a moment, it felt like the future of car design had arrived early. But there was a problem. While the car looked revolutionary, its performance didn't quite match the bold styling. Buyers expected something incredibly powerful, yet under the hood it carried a fairly ordinary engine. Then came the price. The Hudson Italia cost almost twice as much as many other classic American cars of the time. That made it incredibly difficult to sell. In the end, only 26 units were ever produced. Today, it's one of the rarest examples in rare vintage car stories. But the next car on this list didn't just look unusual, it had one of the strangest door designs ever built. The Kaiser Aran. At first glance, it looked like America's answer to European sports cars. It had a sleek fiberglass body and a low sporty stance. In fact, it became one of the earliest American cars to use fiberglass construction around the same time the Chevrolet Corvette C1 was gaining attention. But the real surprise was the doors. Instead of swinging open like normal doors, they slid forward directly into the front fenders. It was clever, it was futuristic, and people definitely noticed it. Unfortunately, the performance didn't match the excitement. The engine was underpowered, and the sports car market quickly became more competitive. Only around 435 Kaiser Aran's were ever built before the model disappeared. Then there was a car that seemed completely out of place in 1950s America, the tiny Nash Metropolitan. During an era when classic American cars were becoming bigger and more powerful every year, the Nash Metropolitan looked almost like a toy by comparison. It was small, economical, and surprisingly stylish. But American buyers in the 1950s wanted giant cruisers with big V8 engines. A tiny compact car simply didn't fit the culture of the time. Even so, the Metropolitan remains one of the most fascinating forgotten legends of us cars. Then came a machine that proved power wasn't just a 1960s invention. The Studebaker Golden Hawk. When it arrived in 1956, this car shocked people with its performance. It carried a powerful V8 engine originally developed by Packard, producing around 275 horsepower, an impressive number for the mid-1950s. The Golden Hawk was fast, aggressive, and packed with attitude. Some historians even consider it one of the earliest examples of vintage muscle cars. But once again, the problem wasn't the car. Studebaker itself was struggling financially. Competing with giants like Ford and General Motors became nearly impossible. And despite producing some truly innovative vehicles, the company slowly lost ground. As Studebaker weakened, cars like the Golden Hawk faded away. Another dramatic story comes from the powerful DeSoto Adventurer. This bold machine came from the Chrysler Corporation lineup and represented everything people loved about classic American cars: massive tail fins, huge chrome details, and a powerful V8 engine. For a brief moment, the Adventurer looked like it could become a performance legend. But behind the scenes, DeSoto sales were collapsing. Internal competition within Chrysler's own brands and pressure from rivals slowly pushed DeSoto out of the market. By 1961, the entire DeSoto brand was gone. Another legendary luxury car soon followed into history, the elegant Packard Caribbean. For decades, Packard had been one of the most prestigious American car brands. Wealthy buyers, celebrities, and business leaders proudly drove Packards. The Caribbean represented the peak of that luxury tradition. It was beautifully crafted, powerful, and loaded with premium materials. But while Packard focused on luxury craftsmanship, competitors like Cadillac, backed by General Motors, were expanding quickly with larger budgets and stronger marketing. Packard struggled to keep up and eventually merged with Studebaker in a last attempt to survive. Unfortunately, the effort failed, and the Packard name eventually disappeared. Not every vanished car was a luxury machine, though. Some were racing legends, like the famous Hudson Hornet. During the early days of NASCAR racing, the Hudson Hornet dominated competitions. It earned the nickname the fabulous Hudson Hornet thanks to its incredible racing success. Its innovative low center of gravity gave it outstanding handling compared to other classic American cars. But corporate mergers once again changed the future. Hudson eventually joined forces with Nash Kelvinator Corporation to form American Motors Corporation. During that transition, legendary models like the Hudson Hornet slowly disappeared from production. Another forgotten machine was the stylish Willys Aero. The Aero was sleek, modern, and comfortable, but the company behind it struggled to compete with huge manufacturers like Ford Motor Company and Chrysler Corporation. Eventually, the Willys Aero quietly disappeared from American roads. But perhaps the most famous vanished car of them all was the Ford Edsel. When Ford announced this new brand in the late 1950s, the excitement was enormous. Massive marketing campaigns promised something revolutionary. But when the Edsel finally launched in 1957, buyers weren't impressed. Some thought the design looked strange. Others complained about the price and early quality issues. Sales quickly collapsed, and by 1960 the Edsel brand was completely gone. Looking back, many of these cars weren't failures at all. Some were innovative, some were powerful, and some were simply born at the wrong moment in history. They represent a time when American car companies were willing to experiment with bold ideas, dramatic designs, and new technologies. Even though these classic American cars disappeared from the roads, their stories still live on through collectors, historians, and enthusiasts who continue to restore and celebrate them today. If you want to see more legendary cars and the incredible stories behind them, make sure you subscribe.